I've been here for 500 years. I said, how long does it take for people to forget where something comes from? The nervous get in their truck? He said, we haven't figured that out. We're still having to do it. How about this one? Rabbit tobacco. Now, how many of y'all remember smoking rabbit tobacco behind the barn as a kid? Anybody? A couple of people. I asked this to a group of master gardeners in Alabama one year, and they were all 60s, 70s. Yeah. They said, if you couldn't get rabbit tobacco, how many of you smoked cross-line cigars? You take that and you suck your eyeballs out trying to get air through it. And about 6 or 7 people raised their hand. I said, if you couldn't get either of those, how many of you smoke hot? Dead silence. Hi, I'm Daryl Patton, known as the Southern Herbalist, and I'm here I can't remember how many of these conferences I've come to here since the beginning, and every year it's a new crowd, new faces that want to learn how to get back to the land and take charge of their health. And we had a great bunch, I don't know how many people it was a lot of people in the tent this morning, and my goal with herbal medicine is to empower people, to give them the knowledge that they can treat themselves and their families at home.
Requirement number 3 is feed out without processing. The less I have to do with this before it's animal food, the better. And we found that we can just toss the whole thing in there. We don't have to shut it out or anything. They'll just eat it.
So this is, I was just thinking of Jerusalem artichokes. Okay, we've got a large area of the garden that's planted to this. These just keep coming back. We let the pigs harvest them, and so we were going to start harvesting them. And we said, that's too much work, so we turned the pigs loose on them and they harvest them. And again, what we're just trying to do is get another crop that we can give to the pigs to cover another week or another 2 weeks or another 3 weeks.
When we started looking at growing animal feed crops, we had in our mind what everybody else has, which is the way the commercial system does it, is it comes up with 1 or 2 animal feed crops and it produces that they can use 12 months of the year, and then it produces a whole lot of it. And it was only after we'd begun to understand the role of the pig in a human food production system as a converter of surpluses, waste, and subpar product into proteins and fats 12 months of the year that we realized we don't need 1 pig food, we need 12 pig feed, or 24. We need multiple ones to fill all the parts of the year.
The framework that I just shared with you is, for example, I took one of the packaging skill set or plan that's in place. I also do things like, oh, here they are, scalloped potatoes. Betty Crocker ain't got nothing on me. Or you don't either. But she gives you a paltry amount. Those potatoes are super thin. Do you see how thick?
Hi, I'm Cassandra from the blog becomingafarmgirl.com. One thing that I hope folks walk away with from the HOA conference is tangible next steps that moves them closer towards their homestead dream wherever they are on the homestead continuum. So whether they're just starting or they've already initiated action along their homestead goals, or they're proficient, that they can take away tangible next steps to take them to the next level.
This is my first time at Homesteaders of America, and I have to say it is exactly what I dreamt it would be. Every booth is selling something that I'm interested in. All the people, you don't have to keep your milk cow a secret. You all are my people. This is where I belong. This is my family. So in 2007, when my husband and I got saved, we left the Mennonites, or were excommunicated. And what that basically means is our life now looks like having a hand in each pot. We love the modern conveniences like our smartphones, fiber optic internet service, the best thing that ever happened, and of course driving cars, not going back. While on the other hand, we really like the slower paced life of our childhood and that of our ancestors.
My name is Ruth Ann Zimmerman, and I have a YouTube channel, Homesteading with the Zimmermans, and my Instagram is Ruth Ann Zim, and we're a homestead family living in Northeast Iowa. Our heritage is Old Order Mennonite, so our homestead and raising our family reflects the values of our childhood.
To do the bee club, and at the same time in my journey, I learned about swarm catching at the bee club, and that really fascinated me because I'm a hunter, I'm a fisherman. And so I was really excited when they said you can catch bees on your own property. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And they're like, no, it's super easy. You can build a box out of anything, put some frames in it, put it over the tree, bathe it with lemongrass essential oil, and bees will show up. And I'm like, I just spent $300 on 3 packages of bees. I wish I knew this information like 12 weeks ago. And so that's what I'm going to impart to you today, is I'm going to talk to you today like I would talk to myself 5 years ago before my journey into this.
So I have a lot of compassion and empathy for those of you, especially who have dairy cows, but anyone who has cows and doesn't have a veterinarian or someone, a trusted advisor and friend to rely on, because there really is, I think, no other helpless feeling on a farm or a homestead than being alone with an animal that needs help and you not being able to provide it. We really recognize in that moment how dependent we are as beings on each other, on the Lord, on knowledge transition from one generation to another, and many of our families that is now broken knowledge. And so we're here to learn.
Lesson number 1 today. Have you ever had lamb? Actually raise your hand. Do not be ashamed, but actually raise your hand if you actually have had lamb. Okay, I'm a little surprised. Why am I surprised? Because on average, the American only eats half a pound of lamb a year. My family eats 5 pounds of lamb a week. So we're bringing that average way up.
I'm Rebecca Rhodes, and I spoke on mineral deficiency and how to fix that for animals and humans.
I am Justin Rhodes, and I taught about and hopefully inspired and gave the idea of what would it take to raise meat sheep. Plus, another talk I did was on when homesteading hurts. We don't talk about that enough. We think about the good. What about the bad? And when it goes bad, how do we cope with it? How do we make the best of it? We've taught and inspired thousands of people to grow their own food, and if you want a wealth of information and resources on that, our company is Abundance Plus. That's abundanceplus.com. Apps are on your phone, on your TV. You can get it anywhere.
If your mother is deficient, then you could be deficient when you're born. So the design is obviously for the babies to take minerals from their mothers to have a near perfect mineral complex, if you will.
Hey there, I'm Joshua Furman, and I'm here to talk about dairy cow natural health. And I'm hoping that anybody who comes to this session, or anybody who's able to listen to this session later, is able to just learn a little bit of practical understanding of how to diagnose or treat or manage their dairy cow.
Right, she's infected. There's a problem inside this cow, so you need to get it out of her so then she can heal. If you let that fester and you let that continue, then it's going to metastasize and get a lot worse. And so one of the biggest mistakes people make with injuries, or especially with mastitis, is, oh my goodness, it's hurting the cow. You know, I don't know if I can get all the milk out of there. That milk is infected milk. If you leave that milk in there for too long, it gets worse and worse and worse. So the idea is get it out.
How many of you have security lighting on your house? That doesn't point at the house, it looks out. It's not like pig on a spit, like ta-da, here's our house. It's lighting that points outward at the perimeter, so it's hard to get. Okay, good. How many of you have a guard dog? Okay, keep hands up, don't move. Let me qualify. In the words of Ron Swanson, anything under 50 pounds is a cat. So if your dog is under 50 pounds, drop your hand and your head. In shame.
What's happening, guys? John Lovell, Warrior Poet Society, again attending the Homesteaders of America convention, this time 2023. Love coming here, networking with old friends, learning, knowledge share. I provide the security piece. It's all about keeping communities safe. Real love protects. And so as people gain resources, we want to be able to help folks protect the people that they love. And so, Homesteaders of America, guys.
I don't need to have a knife. I don't need to have any kind of this equipment that I have here. I don't need anything to dispatch them. I don't need anything to hang them. I can set them on a table, rip them open, rip the guts out, and I can have a meal in less than 20 minutes. And that's it. And guess what? I only have to do one. I don't have to do 40 of them and then have a freezer full of them for the next year. And then if the power goes out, lose all my meat. I can leave them all alive in the hutch and I can just process one at a time when I need them. I don't need all this fancy equipment.
Guy in Scotland, and she's able to grow tomatoes and other tender plants that no one else can grow because she mulches with wool, and the wool actually does the opposite. It wicks away the moisture so those plants cannot get drowned with all of their rain. So wool is just really, really good. It's easy to felt. Spinning, crocheting, knitting are really good skills to have.
My name is Rachel Hester, and I'm at Whoopsie Daisy Farm in Kentucky, and I've written the Guide to Homestead Dairy Sheep, and we're just hoping that people, if they're interested in sheep, they will realize they're a great option for the homestead, and we just want people to know that sheep milk is a very healing food with lots of nutritional components that make it great for the small homesteader.
So I'm like looking at these children and watching one group of kids over here, not just mine, but others that I'm around, who ask really good questions and be interested. And I'm seeing another group of kids that have no light left in their eyes and they're not curious and they're not interested. And I'm like, well, how do we take that out of them? How did that happen? Like, what did we have to do to take the curiosity out? Because that was a substantial effort to get that to happen. And I think there's a number of reasons that that occurs. I won't get into all of that today. I think screens are a big part. What I find that when kids are using all their free time with a screen, they're not able to get as curious about the world around them. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. But the question is, how do we keep the curiosity? It's not that we even have to give it to our kids, right? They have it. How do we just not take it out of them?
Have them come over. Have them walk it through with you so you can see, yeah, this looks good, or this, you're going to need more room, or whatever. So, questions. Do you guys have any questions for me? What do you guys want to build? Go ahead. Oh, let's see. I guess we got to do this here.
No, that's okay. I'm ready now. Like when you're getting into this when you're newer, like what are some of the things that surprised you from a budgeting process? You come from a construction background, so you might have been a little bit more prepared for that. But like, what do you see as potential pitfalls that might surprise people when you're going to try to plan out the financial aspect?
Everything is expensive. So, I mean, honestly, the best that you can do is to try to budget it, you know, the best way you can. It kind of depends. I'll answer that two different ways. I'll answer it if you're going to build it yourself, if you have the mindset of I want to do this myself, I want to build my corrals and my fences, or if you want to hire it out and do it to somebody else. If you're going to hire it out, you want to get as many prices as you can and as many references as you can. Because unfortunately there's a lot of shady builders out there who just, they don't build quality products, or the products that they do build don't match the price point for which they're going to charge. If you're going to build it yourself, which is what I recommend because I think it's the most fulfilling, I would plan on making at least 45 trips to town. Because that's how it's going to work. You can ask my wife, she knows. If you got a hired hand, you're going to need 150 trips to town because he's going to forget twice as much as you. But in all seriousness, it's just trying to build that map of what is it that you want to build, and then build a budget based off of that. I mean,
What do you hope people walk away from here at home, HOA?
Good question. So the main thing that I want people to get out of my session is to really understand that there's a lot of context when it comes to raising pigs, and unfortunately a lot of the YouTube community has not done a good job on properly teaching people how to raise pigs on their homestead. So I'm using this Q&A as an opportunity for people to ask their unique questions when it comes to their particular property, and for using science, data, information, my own personal experience as Pork Rind, the pork evangelist, to help them figure out how to have the most success when it comes to raising pigs. It doesn't have to be as hard as people are making it. What's going to happen is the pig's just going to be very lean. Y'all ever ate lean meat pork before? That tastes good? Oh, because fat is where the flavor is at. So make sure that your pig has plenty of fat if you have a meat breed, right? When it comes to, let's say, your heritage large lard breeds, no more than 5 pounds of feed a day. The reason why you have to limit the amount of feed that they take is because they are prone to obesity. They were not meant to produce a lot of meat. They were meant to produce a lot of fat. So the more grain you give them, the more carbohydrates you're getting. Y'all know a lot about carbs, right? You know a lot about carbs. The more carbohydrates you're going to give them, the more fat they're going to develop. You can't rush their growth, unfortunately. So you just want to have to feed them a ration of 5 pounds of feed a day. For your large breeds. Your small large breeds, like your Kunis, American Guinea Hogs, stuff like that, they don't need more than 3 pounds of feed a day. That's why when brother was talking about Kunis, they can still do well on a largely foraged diet because grain for them was only going to contribute to obesity.
It's also a good example. If any of y'all ever go to Appalachia, take the time to go wander through some old cemeteries. Because you know what they're full of? Babies and kids. And so is the farm at the cemetery at the farm. All these little tiny head and foot stones all over the place. The whole thing is full of kids. All right? Now that's not because they were killing the kids, working them to death on the farm. All right? It's because before we had first world medicine, it was real hard to be alive when you were little. All right? So caring for a newborn in any kind of austere medicine setting is its own nightmare. All right? So plan for it.
Are polar opposites and work with them in an efficient way. So that's the thing I want you to take. If you're taking notes, the idea of realize there's someone out there who loves to do what you hate. And there just is. And whether that's marketing, whether that's milking the cow, gardening, butchering, mechanics, home construction, whatever, that's it. I used to feel really bad. We have a kind of a maintenance tech on staff now at the farm. I know this is a little bit further out, but I'm just using them for example. I know you don't have a maintenance tech on your homestead. I'm sorry. I hope at some point you get to that because it's awesome. Because I felt bad about not getting to the honeydew list, right? There's all these things in the house, like a drain, a screen, a little door that's sticky. And I would never get to them. And so finally I just wrote this list down, I took it to the maintenance, I'm hey dude, can you deal with this? And he's like, sure. He ranks it out in half a day. Your family's loving it. In no time it does it better than I would do it, and I get to go do something else. Yes. All right, back to that mechanic instructor, and back to my oldest son is totally into mechanics, right? His idea of fun on a Saturday is pulling the engine out of his Honda and getting it ready to swap out for another one.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 2023 Homesteaders Conference. Daniel Salatin here from Polyface. Excited to be part of it again. Hope to see everybody out here. We've got lots of topics. We just talked about whole farm layout and design so that you don't tote a lot of water or get frustrated or chase animals or have to sell your property because you get frustrated. That one's fun, and we're going to also do a Kidsteaders here at 1 o'clock about all the work that kids can do on the farm and just empower them, hopefully, to do things there and learn from them, what they're doing now. It's going to be a fun interactive. And then tomorrow we're going to talk about being stronger through togetherness. A lot of us homesteaders want to do stuff ourselves, which is key, but remembering how much we need to work together and some principles of how that can be strong. Then I think that Joel guy is doing a bunch of readings and some other talks and some inspirational stuff. So anyway, there's so many great people out here and just so much to learn, and just glad to be a part of it. Thanks for being here.
I was on Sebastian Gorka's show a while back, and he asked me, he goes, Nick, can we win this? Can we win this thing? Can we turn it all around? And I said, to be honest and respectfully, Doc, I'm getting tired of hearing the question phrased that way. The way you phrase it is much better. I'm not saying the question of whether or not we can win or turn it all around is important or not. It is important, I understand. It just shouldn't be the most important question, and it shouldn't be the first one you ask. Let me ask you all a question right now. If you knew that the probability of us winning or turning it around was almost zero, would you stop fighting? No. Would you stop fighting? That's what they need to know. At the end of the day, that's what they need to know. They need to know that no matter what they do, no matter how much pressure, no matter how much comfort they try to take away, no matter if they try to deplatform you, if they take your job, if they put you in jail, no matter what they do, you're not stopping. And to answer your question, the reason why you're not is because what we believe in is true, and it's beautiful, and it's noble, and because a lot of people died to make sure we could have it. I'm not going to tell the children of friends that I lost in combat. I didn't do absolutely everything I could to make sure that their kids grew up in a country worthy of the sacrifice that they gave. I'm not doing it. And I want them to know I'm not doing it. I want them to know I'm coming back no matter what they do. Because when people have that mindset, one of two things happen. Either they win or their children do.
All right, to everyone who couldn't attend in person, my name is Nick Freitas. I was honored to be one of the speakers today, and what I specifically talked on was how people within the homestead community can actually effectively advocate for the sort of legislation that they want and effectively advocate against the legislation they don't want in the Virginia General Assembly and really in state legislatures across the country. And the big thing that I wanted to focus on there are great organizations like Homesteaders of America, like VICFA, like local groups that are constantly fighting for this. They're very in tune to what the legislature is doing. They know who the legislative champions are. They know some of the organizations that we constantly have to argue against. They know some of the legislators that we got to do a better job of convincing. And one of the things that, if I could sum up my entire talk in just a couple of ideas, one is get involved with the groups that are paying attention to what's going on in the legislature. Because when you do have time to participate, whether it's advocating for a particular bill, whether it's fighting against a bad bill, whether it's helping a legislator that is trying to do the right thing down in Richmond, right, working with those local groups is going to make your activism that much more effective. The second thing that I really focused on was, look, political activism is important. It's something that we all have to engage in. However, the most powerful argument that we're ever going to make for the things that we want to see within our community, within our commonwealth, within our country is going to be the way that we live our lives. It's going to be the way that we raise our marriages, that we raise our children. And so getting plugged in with communities like Homesteaders of America and finding your people. I can't emphasize this enough. What does it mean to find your people? It means to find those individuals within your locality, within your region that do share those values, and finding out what sort of capabilities, what sort of assets that you have, and figuring out how they work within that larger group so that you can come together and support each other. Sometimes it might be just supporting each other by hanging out and having a good time with like-minded people. Other times, as we saw during COVID and other situations, it might be actually a little bit more than that. It may be with the medical expertise that you have. It may be with your capability to be able to grow, raise, and process food. All of these things are capabilities that can be used to not only bless yourself, but also bless your family and a larger community. And the more connected you are within those like-minded people, the more effective you're going to be, whether it's standing before the legislature down in Richmond or your respective state, or if it's just making sure that people have food on the table when they really need it, and the supply chain doesn't come through. So that was my message here. Develop those capabilities spiritually, emotionally, physically, and professionally. Find your people, and again, have a great time while you're doing it.
Community, and number two, be able to make a living. Okay. So then on top of that, throw in speaking. So I travel basically from March until October. I'm gone generally 1 week out of the month. My husband Justin stays on the farm. He swore he was never going to milk my cows, and I got a picture while I was gone of back into my cow going, does she look a little fat to you? Maybe we should pull back on her grains a little bit. So, so now he's like, you go do you. This is what God's calling you to do right now. When he's telling you it's time to rest, you will know. Your calling right now, my friends, is to take, and if you don't know anything about me, you will know that I speak candidly about my faith and about my dislike for the government, okay? Your job here is to take back your food source, reclaim it, become that small family farm that's gonna feed your local community so they stop shopping at Walmart. Okay, that is your job. That's why you guys are all sitting here right now. Whether or not you want to put the work into it, because you have to put the work into it. Whether or not you want to stay up until 1 o'clock in the morning, possibly writing a product to sell on your website as passive income. Something as simple as 5 jam recipes on strawberry season. You wouldn't believe how many people will buy that from you, okay? So now we move to Waynesboro, Tennessee, from less than 2 acres to a 42-acre farm. And if you don't know anything about Waynesboro, Tennessee, it is in southern middle Tennessee, 1 hour from the Alabama border. We intentionally bought farmland that was away from a big city. Various reasons. It takes me 2 hours to get to the airport to fly out, so be it. That's just the way that it is. Your cost of living is less down there. You can buy more farmland down there. And then on top of that, you're able to work generally with a county that is not as stringent, as strict as other more micromanaged counties. Does that make sense? Okay, again, so read this if you can, but I'm gonna read it out loud for those who can't see it. Basically, dream big. She considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. Be creative. She is like the merchant ship bringing food from afar. Have grit. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her task, and she sees that her trade is profitable and her lamp does not go out at night. Be consistent. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Persevere. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. Be patient. Be positive, patient be a positive presence in your community. Honor her for all that her hands have done, and let her work bring her praise to the city gates. Who knows where that came from?
Proverbs 31.
Amen. Amen. Women, and I'm sorry, men, I'm speaking to the women right now. You are the threshold of your family. Many of you want to help bring an income into your family while you have babes on hip, homeschooling your kids, and managing a farm. It is your job, as well as it is your spouse's job, to help bring that dream to fruition, okay? This is why we're here as women. Do you have to go as far as I have gone? Absolutely not. But what you should focus on is what you can do to help streamline that income. And who does it better than Proverbs 31?
Hey y'all, I'm Zach from Stivers Homestead, and today we spoke about doing something. And the kind of the long story short, what that means is we always have a list, we're always got things we need to do, but it's about actually physically doing them. Turning off the TV, turning off YouTube, getting outside and doing something, and being prepared and ready with confidence that whatever the world will throw at us, you're gonna be ready for it. And that's the philosophy of doing something. Outside of that, we have our booth here. We sell homemade tinctures, salves, teas. My wife is very big into herbs and all of its medicinal properties, and so we've turned that into a business to try to share that knowledge with others. And while they're learning how to make it, in the meantime, we do sell it at thestivershomestead.com.
And so that's why it's felt like we're kind of on this decline of wanting to see more drama than learning how to do something, because it almost feels like we know enough. But I'm telling you right now, we don't. We don't at all. And we don't feel comfortable enough to handle this again. Or this. Or this, government overreach. Or fake meat. Or all the things the FDA is still going to throw at us. It doesn't stop. Can we fight? Yes. But do you know how you fight the best? By doing something. Not by getting on social media and complaining about cultured meat. And not saying, you know, I'm never going to eat that, we're going to take them down. And what you're going to do is you're never going to buy it. You're going to grow your own meat. You're not going to worry about what outside sources are doing, because you're too busy doing something else. So how many people here watch videos about preparedness, sustainability, you're trying to do this stuff? Yeah, most everybody. How many of you all feel that you are prepared for anything? Right, so I want to hear you. Let's look at some HOA. Who is ready to do something? All right, let's learn how to do something.
The building block of your bones as well as your teeth. If we can heal a broken bone, why can't we heal our teeth? We've been told for decades, centuries now, that we can't heal our teeth. Let's see if we can, okay? One of the building blocks of your teeth is silica. So what Doug Simon suggests and what I'm suggesting to you is to add one of the best silica sources, and that's horsetail. Add that to your diet. If you have a kidney issue and horsetail happens to be a little too harsh for you, you can add bamboo. I keep these on my property, on my farm, and I'll just go by and break off the horsetail and chew it. Just chew it daily. Now you want to take those as many as 10 times per month. If you see an issue come up, and I'll talk about that in just a minute, but if you see an issue come up, you want to take that 10 days in a row to help heal it. But your body needs about 10 days per month of silica, and that's about the equal amount of a tablespoon per day. If you go to the health food store and get horsetail in a capsule, or you grind it up yourself and put it in a capsule, you can do that and take it that way. And that's going to add.
But you have to work as a team. And that's going to be a really big thing when it comes to that budget. And when you sit down and you talk about the bigger picture that I talked about, what are going to be the goals for the year, it can't just be what's important to one of you. It has to be what's important to both of you. You know, when we first started our homestead, we would give tours to like some of our local people. They were like, man, it's kind of cool. What you doing? Can we get a tour? Sure. And a lot of the time, one of them would come back to us when the other one had stepped away for a moment and say, man, I just can't get them on board. And I'm like, how do you not get them on board? I don't know what that means. You know, but not everybody is going to have that same mindset. You know your spouse more than anybody else. And if you don't, I think you should probably get to know them better. But doing this homesteading life, it's not easy. It's hard. But if you have somebody who's going to be beside you through thick and thin, that's what matters. And that budget is also going to help you be accountable for each other.
Favorite varieties that you can find a comparable one. Granted, you are sacrificing the story. I think heirlooms we still need to plant and grow heirlooms. They tell a story, we need to keep that alive. Like, I completely understand that. But I do think it's important to think about these things. What are the goals for your homestead? What are the goals for your family? And are you really doing everything you can to be in alignment with your goals? And so I have even found some greenhouse heirloom varieties that I hard prune to a 2-liter system, and they do really well. So there's still a way that you can have the best of both worlds. And so I think that that's just something maybe to be mindful of. So you guys can see here what happened with my tomatoes. You can see the 2 side shoots that put on, and you can see my trellising, how I just create this vine that always goes up. But I would definitely say, if you guys are wanting to maximize your small homestead and you're wanting to grow more food, and abundance is something that you're looking for, and maybe you're like me and you still had to work another job and you're doing this on the side, I really do think that this is a way that you can really maximize your farm super efficiently by just trading out. I'm not saying go crazy, I'm not saying only grow hybrids, but even if you just implement a couple plants, you'd be surprised how much those 2 plants would produce compared to your other ones.
My moms can have an out-of-hospital birth, and I get that a lot. Like, well, I think I'll have the first one in the hospital, and then I might try next time. Well, it's like, well, you don't have, it's not like a boarding pass. You don't have to have a traumatic delivery to be able to have a beautiful birth. Like, we just had a prime up last week. I mean, she blew my mind. I'm not exaggerating. She breathed through these. Like, I was like, are you doing hypnobirthing? She's like, no. I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening? And then she just said, I'm going to push now. I'm like, okay, great. You know, it's her first baby, and it was amazing. It was beautiful. It was like, it blew my mind actually a little bit. But we have first-time moms that do phenomenal jobs all the time. And the difference between a first-time mom having a successful out-of-hospital birth and having a crappy birth is her birth team. Whether you're in the hospital or out, if you have a good birth team, if you have a good provider, if you have a doula, if you have support, you're more than likely going to have a good birth. Being a first-time mom doesn't actually have very much to do with it at all. It might make the pushing phase a little slower, it might make the labor a little bit longer, but at the end of the day, the mechanisms are the same. Labor is the same. Labor is just as unpredictable in a mom on her 9th baby as it is on her 1st baby. So you don't have to have this requisite of OB care first. You can have an out-of-hospital birth with whatever number baby it is for you.
You figure out who you want them around, who has the same mindset, who has the same values that we want them to emulate. You show them greatness early on. Then when they're old enough and they see something that's not aligned with that, they understand how to turn and walk the other way. That's how you prepare them. You prepare a strong foundation for what you want socialization to look like. So we're going to ditch
in America is killing us, and so he broke free a little bit. So every step we take, I think, is essential. One of my heroes, Malcolm X, he decided, he sort of pointed out that if you beg a man for your freedom, you'll never have it. Freedom is something you have to do for yourself. And that's a bit of the answer to your question, which is a really good question, is we have to just start being free. Start raising your food, start buying less. And one of the things that I think is most important about that is that it raises your consciousness, because it really, everything we do is based on our consciousness, like what we perceive as right or wrong, or what we're going to do, or what we have to do. And you don't have to do things that people tell you you have to do.
Hello, my name is Paul Hutchison with Windmill Heights Garden Center, and I'm here at 2023 HOA conference, excited to share people how to start seeds. I'm excited to hopefully share some tips that will make people's lives easier and give them more success starting their own heirloom seeds. Thank you very much.
It's also very straightforward and very cheap. Because it's a raised bed, so I'm going to pause for a moment, I'm going on a side tangent. I love plug trays. I also hate plug trays. The problem with plug trays and any small cell pot that you're growing in was when you have a very hot day, they dry out very, very fast. So I work full time, I have a job, I can water things in the morning and then I go away. And when I come home, if those little plugs are dried out and dead, that's the end of the game, right? You can't bring them back to life. So growing things in plug trays is really hard unless you're around to water things 3 times a day. As a professional at the greenhouse, we grow things in plug trays, and we water them 3 times a day. But as homeowners and homesteaders, maybe you don't have time to water things 3 times a day. So that was a serious disadvantage I was trying to get away from. My goal was to only have to water things 1 time a day. Growing it in a raised bed, the roots can grow down infinitely. They can go into the native soil down below. It's a deep raised bed, so I'm growing in 6 inches of compost and then a 2-inch layer of potting soil. And so when I transplant the seedlings, they have roots that are 1 foot long. So what that means is I don't have to water every day. What I found was I was watering about every 3 to 5 days in the early part of the season. And then as we got into April and May, I was watering every other day. So very reduced maintenance, right? Trying to make things simple. The other amazing thing is from the very beginning, these seedlings are hardened off. There is no shock moving them from here to outside.